Hello and welcome to the Peak Endurance Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Ron Tate, and with me is
Isabel Tate, your other host. If you're watching this on YouTube, I don't know if you'll be seeing it, but it's a little bit jumpy, but not such a good internet at the moment. We're finding that of an evening that the internet is super slow. Every man, woman, and child must be on the internet in exciting Ferntree Gully.
Yeah, our picture keeps like freezing, like momentarily, like very momentarily, but it keeps skipping and jumping.
We hope that the sound quality is not skipping and jumping, and that's all okay.
Yep.
If it's not, well, not much we can do about it, I'm afraid. I mean, I go to the best efforts I can to make sure everything is perfect, but it is also in the lap of the internet gods.
Yeah, we did do a lap of the neighbourhood and drop things in the letterbox to ask them to stay off the internet, but I don't think it worked.
No, especially not on school holidays. Yeah, so anyway, sorry, that light, we've got a light, it's like shining in my eyes. We went to gym this afternoon. Yes, we did heavy weights.
Yep.
Quite heavy, and that was really it's amazing how doing heavy weights can really get your heart rate up.
Yeah.
Right. And I was really huffing and puffing, I have to say, with the hex bar squats and those sorts of things. And luckily we're at sort of that that kind of gym where it's okay to smash weights around a bit.
Yeah. There's
because I was doing a bit of smashing the weights around a bit.
It's there's a lot of guys there throwing a lot of heavy weights around. So
and to be fair, some of them don't look like they really should be, to be honest. Like a lot of them, I think they're a little bit more of an Arnie than they really are. But yes, but that's okay. That's why I think bugger it. I don't care if they think, oh my God, look at those runners. I think we lift quite well, quite heavy, considering we're runners.
We're skinny runners.
Yes. And Ron felt a little bit under pressure when I stood in front of him doing the
I'm trying to focus and lift a heavy weight, and there she is standing in front of me, pulling faces and smiling at me.
I was smiling. I was not actually pulling.
Well,
faces.
you were doing a very big cheesy grin.
Yes, that's right.
And it was distracting me.
I was being nice. Jeez. So anyway, so that was a bit of fun, and then you ran home.
Yep.
And I shot off to hot yoga. So, and can I tell you, after doing those heavy weights, doing some of the one-legged stands, and oh my God, and we had to get up on our toes and then squat down, and my legs were burning. And then we were doing arm stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, this was a bit of a mistake. But I just think doing hot yoga or any kind of yoga, I find the hot the better. A, because it's winter and I love the heat, and B, because when it's a bit warmer, it helps you become a bit more pliable. And I really think runners need to be mobile. I know there's a lot of coaches out there who say, no, you don't need to stretch and blah, blah, blah. I think you really need to focus on mobility, especially if you want to stay in running for a long time. Because I'm noticing the more I've been running, the stiffer and stiffer I'm getting. And I haven't been doing a lot of yoga because I'm lazy. Well, not like it's not that I'm lazy doing yoga, it's the driving there, and
it's the booking in. And
I know it's so much easier just to come home and stretch. But stretching, I do all the same sort of stretches, and sometimes I go through it a little bit fast, bit laissez-faire attitude. But at yoga, there's no escaping, because I make sure I go up the front. And I came out of yoga today, and Mish, the instructor, was like, "Oh, your running's really hard on your body, isn't it?" I went, yeah. She goes, geez, that looked painful. She was going, I was so worried about your hamstrings.
So they might ping up and hit the wall.
Yeah, she was going, I was thinking, don't snap. And I'm like, don't worry, I'm very careful. But she was like, oh, geez, you are so stiff. And I'm like, I know. And I need to start coming more often. So I will. And just her saying that, it's like, and it's embarrassing because I'm up the front and everyone sees how stiff I am. But, my hearing's not 100% the best. I want to be up the front where I can hear and where I can see.
Yeah.
And I don't care if I don't look the best, because quite frankly, I know I don't. In fact, there were like old men there with grey hair who were more flexible than me.
Yeah.
So
I know. I mean, I went there once a while ago now, but I went beside you.
once, that was it.
Yeah, and I made you look like one of those
yogis,
gymnasts.
I don't remember you being that bad,
Oh,
Ron.
no.
I think we all think we're worse than we are. But when even the instructor says that you're kind of the stiffest,
yeah.
But like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, who cares? Like, I just don't care because I'm doing it for me, not to impress anybody else. And all I think in my head is when they're all flexing around and looking like bloody whatever, I just think, well, I ran 100K a week and a half ago. Wonder if you could do that.
Yeah,
Bet you couldn't.
Bet you couldn't.
So I just keep telling myself that. But ultimately, I don't care if they think I'm unco and hopeless. I literally don't care. So I just think it's really something good to add to your repertoire of exercises. It's good active recovery. And it's so good for mobility. And what I do is I get there a little bit early with my ball and I roll my feet and I roll my glutes and I roll my calves and my shins so that, it loosens everything up a little bit, believe it or not. And therefore it improves the efficacy of the mobility work. So something important to do. And if you haven't tried yoga, I urge you to give it a go. It's good to do something different and move your body in different planes because running is very one-dimensional. And who wants to be one-dimensional, Ron? If they were, all they would do is run, talk about running, eat for running, sleep for running.
Still sounds a fair bit like us.
So, yes.
We do yoga for running. We go to the gym for running.
To be fair, that's true. But I like yoga and gym regardless. I mean, I used to do weight training just for weight training's sake, for bodybuilding. So in general updates for us, I have recovered quite well.
Yeah.
I'm feeling good. I went off and did some hill repeats today, 3-minute hill intervals, 6 of them. And I said to Ron, my legs, they're not used to running up hills. It was horrible. No, it wasn't horrible. It was good, but it didn't feel as good as as okay as it normally does. I didn't feel like I could push as hard as I normally do.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and
I missed my long run this week because I had a bit of a tummy bug, wasn't feeling great. So I stayed at home.
And we figured it out that the reason that you probably got it off me, that why I was feeling crappy for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Was I just figured I had some sort of virus, and then you've had some sort of virus, which has been sort of more for your tummy, but I think it still was the same one, because it just leaves you feeling rubbish. I just felt rubbish for 2 weeks. Like, it was awful. So we're guessing that's kind of what you've got.
Yeah. So Isabel went out solo on Saturday. First time in a long time.
Going solo. So
okay.
I give up my day job.
So yes, and I laid on the couch.
I know. Lazy. I went out and did the 25Ks with 1,500 meters climbing for both of us.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, and it was a funny old day because it sort of seemed all right, and then it rained and it was horrible, and it was anyway. It was still good to get out and get into the hills, and I have lost a bit of hill strength, but it's all there. It'll just come back quite quickly, no doubt.
Yeah.
And so we're going to get out in the hills again this weekend, and then we've got Adelaide, Ultra Adelaide. Are you sure you're going to be all right with doing all of that?
Sure thing. Yeah.
With 100K the week after?
Yeah. No,
because we're not racing.
I've had some restful weeks.
You have had a couple of restful weeks. Yeah. Because of course, when I taper for a race and that, so does Ron. So yes. Anyway, so that's been our training. Now I put on 2 groups, the Peak Endurance Podcast and the Peak Endurance Running Group. If people had any ideas. Okay, one just came up then for the pod. And people went more. Yes, anyway, so Josie just put one in. How about the pros and cons to steroid injections or PRP shots? Yes, we'll do that, but I would like to do a little bit more research before I do that, Josie. But I agree. Josie and I had been talking about that. So I agree that that is a good one. Other than that, Mel has asked, balancing nutrition when you're not training as hard as you normally would due to injury or tapering. All righty. So this is my viewpoint on that. You don't change it.
You don't change even the quantity?
No. Because, all right, 2 reasons. When you're injured, your body is working harder to repair itself. So it needs, the last thing you want to be doing is starving yourself.
Yep.
And cutting back on food. Your body, whenever I have been injured, way back in the day, and I had to take time off because I haven't had to for injury for a very long time.
We're almost beating the door down. We're knocking so hard on that wood.
I always ate the same.
Yep.
Okay. Because I knew that my body requires extra protein, extra energy, because there's a lot of repairing going on. And I would also supplement with a lot more supplements. Like when I had stress fracture, I was taking more calcium, magnesium, those sorts of things. And in my spare time that I wasn't training or doing other, supplemental training that I could do whilst being injured, I was visualizing my injury repairing. So, sitting down, closing my eyes and visualizing it and imagining, all the red blood cells going there and like when it was the bone, I was imagining the bone, fibers getting stronger and thicker and.
Now, I mean, initially that sounds a bit new age and a bit, airy-fairy.
Read Mind Over Medicine, then you won't think so.
But you've read a bit about this and
yes.
you've employed it yourself.
I mean, I did all of this before I read about it, but they have actually done research and it works. And actually, we might even do a podcast on that. There's another idea.
Yep.
And because I've got 2 books on it, and I'll get some information about it, and we'll talk more educatively.
Yep.
That's a word,
yes,
name.
That is now. Because you went to an educator and
got educated
and learned all about that.
Well, I am the educator. It really makes a difference. Now, I did it with that. I also did it when I had a nerve injury. I imagined because the neural pathway was destroyed, basically, so I couldn't walk, let alone run. So in my mind, I created a new neural pathway and I imagined it firing and blah, 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 and I was doing it. And I learned to walk and to run again. And I had since read a book, Your Brain is Always Listening, by somebody, Amos, I think his name is. Anyway, can look into that. We'll talk about that at some stage too. I did once contact him for an interview. But it is actually possible to do. I did it before I read the book, but since then I've read it and they've done research, and due to brain plasticity, and you can create new neural pathways. And I did. And I'm not trying to big note myself here. I'm just saying if someone as simple and ordinary as me can do it, you can do it too. So if you are injured, visualize. If you need to get meditations, and let me know, I'm happy to create meditations and visualizations for you to listen to. Obviously, I would be selling them because it is work on my behalf, but I'm happy to create them for sale if there is a market for it, because I think it is so important. And I looked for stuff like that, but there was nothing back in the day, and it would be easier to have something. And sometimes I did create them and listen to them myself. Now, that is so important when you are injured, let alone, and that is why you need to keep eating when you are injured. Do not starve yourself, because you've got all that. Your body is working hard. When you're sick as well, I hear about these people, oh, I'm sick, I just didn't eat. Well, you're not going to get better. And even then, when you do get better, you're going to be so far behind the 8 ball because you're weak. Sure, you don't feel like eating. I get it. Eat. Okay, find something you can eat. Soup, toast, something, but you need to eat. I was always rabbiting on with you when you were not feeling 100% then as well. So it's really important. Tapering, you're going to need energy for the race. Why would you diet before a race?
Yeah.
Why would you eat less?
Yeah. That's when you should be building up.
Yeah.
Building up your energy reserves.
You would, if anything, I eat more. Before a race, but even before, I always carbo loaded before my marathons. Sure, I'd reduce fiber and, all the veggies, but I would keep the protein, increase carbs, and I was eating a lot more, because also what it often happens is, especially women, we don't actually eat enough for our running. And so when you eat more for carbo loading, you're probably eating more what you really should be eating.
Yeah.
And your body responds positively to that.
Yeah.
And when you carb load, your body also, so you may bloat a little bit because carbs store fluid. You want those fluids on board.
Yeah.
You want those carbs on board, especially if you find that you get gastric distress during a race. That's another reason why I eat a bit more, because I know I don't always eat enough during the race.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you don't carb load or anything, but you don't have problems eating during the race.
No.
Well, you do to a certain extent, because you don't eat. You just don't eat. It's not that you get sick. You just don't eat.
No, I just don't feel like eating.
Yeah, I know. But once again,
it's not a I can't eat. I can eat if I want, but I don't do the sorts of races where I would stop and eat.
No.
And I just struggle to move and eat. It's just not something that makes me feel comfortable.
Then you walk and eat.
Yeah, but
you walk and eat.
But that's not I can't. It's just
At age 22.
I don't want to. I don't like to.
And that's where probably upping your food before the race would probably be a good idea, especially carbs. But in general, we do that because I up my carbs. Yeah. So by default, you up your carbs.
Yeah.
Except for all the snacks that you're eating. Sorry, I'm looking in the camera. I can see my pimple.
Yes, but if you're eating the right foods, you're not going to load on the weight.
Yeah, I'm not saying garbo loading, donuts and pizza and chips.
Yeah, if it's a weight thing that you're worried about, if you're eating the right food, 2 weeks of continuing to eat the right food while you're injured or not running as much or tapering, shouldn't make a huge difference. Certainly, if you're doing it for tapering,
you've got to keep eating.
Yeah, nothing that you won't lose during your race.
Yeah, that's right. And you have to ask yourself, am I running for weight loss or am I running for performance?
Yeah, and also if you're tapering with a view to giving yourself a better chance during your race. Therefore, if you starve yourself or if you eat less while you're tapering, you're actually doing the opposite.
Yes, exactly.
You're actually making it harder on yourself for the race.
While
you're tapering.
And then when you're done the race and you're recovering and you're doing less exercise, you still keep eating.
Yeah, because you've got to recover. While your body's recovering, it still requires the food that you're eating. Not less food.
Yes, and especially because often after a hard race, your immune system is quite lowered. You want to keep eating to boost your immune system.
Yeah.
So my answer to both those questions, Mel, is keep eating as long as it's healthy.
Yeah, that's right.
And you're not stuffing yourself to the point of, exploding. Just normal eating. Just keep your normal eating. Your body needs energy to recover, whether that's from injury, a race, and it needs energy to prepare for a race.
That's right. And the only way it's going to get energy is through food. You don't get energy through oxygen. You get energy through food.
Unless you're Gandhi or something. I don't know. We're pretty close.
Yeah.
Now, what was the other one? And then Glenn says, tips for bouncing back physically and mentally after an ultra. All right. So physically, eat and sleep and drink water.
Yeah, not alcohol.
I'm pretty sure Glenn doesn't really drink anyway, but if you want to have it, if you're going out, then we have a few drinks, after a race sometimes to celebrate, and I'm not saying no alcohol whatsoever, but just drink lots of fluids, rehydrate the body. You will be dehydrated, unless you've gotten hyponatremia, you will be dehydrated.
Yeah.
You will be behind on calories. There is no way you will have consumed enough calories during the race to compensate for the activity that you did and for the lack of meals that you had. So good quality food, lots of protein. And this is why I have an issue with vegetarianism and veganism, and to be honest, even with keto people. I don't believe in eliminating any food group from the diet, because I believe all food groups are important. We have evolved to eat all of the food groups, and that includes protein. And the best quality protein, unfortunately, comes from animal sources. So vegetarianism isn't quite so bad, because at least they can eat eggs and dairy. But vegans, I find, and there's probably vegans listening to this going, oh my God, I get it. I know you're vegan. That's fine. I still don't think the protein is as good. Mm-hmm. It's just not. And it's not as bioavailable. And you've got to consume so much food to get the amount of protein that meat eaters can get in a small piece of meat. Mm-hmm. Right? So if you are vegan, before you switch off the podcast because you hate me now, just make sure you're getting enough protein from some source, because it's so important. I know so many vegans who pretty much don't eat any protein, and it's really, and then I hear about how exhausted they are and how tired they are. And so many of my female friends,
sick all the time.
They get sick all the time, constantly having to get iron infusions. I mean, it just shows the body needs proper protein sources. Like, seriously. Anyway, don't get me started. I'll get off the soapbox. So please don't. And the keto is the same. You need carbs for recovery. Basically, for recovery, you need protein and carbs, and lots of them, and continuously. So, after the race, try to eat as soon as possible. And I get it. I often don't feel like eating at all, which is why I said when I had that Big Mac, I felt so much better.
Yeah.
But as soon as, then the next day, I had a big plate of bacon, eggs, toast, mushrooms, the other three people at the table were like, oh my God. And I'm like, oh yeah.
You had the big brekkie experience.
I did. And I'm not embarrassed about it. And so over the years, so many people have said to me, oh my God, you eat so much. Yeah, well, I'm not fat, so tough.
Yeah.
Just because I'm female doesn't mean I'm not allowed to eat. And I am very healthy. I rarely get sick. I mean, whatever that virus was, that was the worst type of sickness I've had.
Yeah.
And really, that I kept running the whole time because I didn't even know I was sick. I just felt crap.
Yeah. That's right. That sickness or illness for you generally is represented by feeling a little bit off.
Yeah, a little bit off. And that's all I ever
because you're so fit and healthy and your immune system is so strong from the exercise you do, the food that you eat, the supplements that you take. It all adds to boost your immune system, so that when you do get a bug, which you do get because that's a human experience. You get bugs, no matter how much you try and stop.
Believe it or not, you can't actually stop a virus.
No, you can't stop a virus. Wearing a mask will not stop a virus, apparently. So you will get a virus, but if you're already a healthy person that eats healthy, exercises, watches their weight, through exercise and food, not in good food,
maintains a healthy weight, is I guess what you're trying to say. Yep.
Then your immune system is already kick-starting. You're ahead of the curve.
Yep, that's right.
So
and cutting food to taper or to not put on weight or to cut out a food group to lose weight or something, or because it's the fashion, is not doing your body any favors. Just eat as close to unprocessed food as you can and eat good quality food. I mean, we don't spare any money on good quality food.
No, we don't.
I've always believed that all my life, whenever I, other than when even my parents believed it, but my food shopping has always been very expensive because I don't believe in skimping on food quality. I think your body is that's life. I mean, I don't want to be in a shitty body because I'm too tight to buy some good quality food.
We don't eat.
I'd rather forgo other things.
We don't eat much. Well, I used to, but I don't anymore. I eat a lot of processed food. So salads, meats.
Do you notice that you feel any better at all?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So nothing beats good quality food. Yeah, clean food.
And it tastes better.
Yeah.
It truly does. But in saying that, we have the odd treat. We do.
We treat ourselves. Absolutely. And otherwise, it makes eating clean so much harder if you don't treat yourself every now and then.
Yes, that's right. It is.
Because let's face it, shitty food tastes good.
Oh, yeah.
That's why.
We live around the corner from a fish and chip shop.
Even tonight, getting home from my run, because I literally...
You had to run past it, didn't you?
Yeah, run, because it's at the very end. It's basically on the corner of our street, and so whenever we finish a run, you finish your run, you stop out front of our driveway.
And sometimes we run past, and there's someone walking out with their fish and chips, and we're ready to hip and shoulder and steal those fish and chips. Love fish and chips.
I mean, but that's it. You eat that stuff because it tastes good, and if you cut that out completely, It makes staying or sticking to a healthy diet really hard.
Yeah, or
You
harder.
need, well, yeah, you need that every now and then, the release of just
that's right. And just
not
enjoying
worrying
it.
about it.
And then you don't have to worry, oh my God, how many calories? Because it's like, I don't do this every day.
Yeah.
It's not a treat if you're eating it every day.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a treat when you eat it once a week, which is what we do.
Yeah.
No, you laughed at me. You used to think it was funny that I only ate junk once a week. Oh my God. And now you're in my boot.
Yep.
So then Glenn also asked, bouncing back mentally. All right. So my tips, because I've done a lot of races where I'd race really hard and it would be my A race and whatnot. But even so, even though it was my A race and I would do well in it, I was still, as I came closer to it, I was already thinking about the next race. So I had that other goal going, okay, so once I finish this race, then I'm going to recover and then I'm going to start training. And I was already getting excited about the next race, even though it was 6 months away. Now, I've heard some people say, oh, you shouldn't do that. Your only focus should be on this race. No. Yeah, my focus was, but I was still looking ahead so that if something bad happened in that race, I knew I had another race. It also then, when I went into recovery mode, that recovery had a goal. And the goal was to recover enough so that I could train for the next race. Otherwise,
that's a motivation in itself.
Yeah, that is a motivation, because otherwise you get into recovery and you go, oh, this is shit, and I'll never train again. I couldn't be bothered, or what's the point? Oh, I'll just get straight back into training. I don't need to recover. I'm feeling great.
Or and on the opposite, the flip side of that is people after a race, they get into the doldrums and
never do anything again.
They stop running or doing whatever it is they love doing. They stop doing it because that low of
post-race
blues kicks in and they have nothing to look forward to get back out of that funk.
That's right. So I always had another race. And then during my recovery, I was looking forward to recovery because, I'll get to go to spin classes and I'll do this and I'll do more yoga and I looked forward to doing different training for a month. And that's how long, when I was racing seriously, I would take a good month of proper running training. The first week, I wouldn't run at all. The first 2 weeks, I should say, I wouldn't run at all. The first week, I did nothing because I used to push my body so hard. And then I would, and maybe towards the end of that week, I'd do some walks. And then I would do just walks the next week and spin classes. And then after that, I'd maybe do a couple of easy runs and spin classes and, elliptical. And I'd get on the rowing machine and do all different sorts of things, use my body in different ways, have a bit of fun. And then by the 4th week, I'd sort of be starting to, and then by the 5th week, I'd be getting back into training.
Yeah.
And even then I'd cycle my training different things and because the body loves same it wants homeostasis. So if you just keep hitting it with the same training, it's just going to stay the same. And that's why my programs that I plan for my clients is it changes over the course of as we're training. So to hit different systems, but also to mix it up for the body, even the strength training, I have them on one program for 1 month and then put them on a different one because the body needs change to keep changing, to keep growing, to keep improving. So mentally after a race, have another goal race to look forward to. If it's a destination race, have a holiday straight after it to something to look forward to. But I also just think having another race to look forward to is really important and a goal for your recovery. Otherwise, you could get in the doldrums. You could just end up becoming a couch potato and eating Cheetos.
Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
They taste shit.
No,
there's that.
Yum.
Really?
Yeah.
I was going to talk about the drinking game I used to have with them, but we won't go into that. So that's how I, and you also, to a certain extent, have to accept, which I always did, that there would be a dying period. Okay. There is always going to be a little bit of a dying period after a big race, and I went to world championships and all those sorts of things. And it can be, you're so focused and I'm representing Australia and I'm going to Europe and I'm doing all this. And then you come home and the kid's like, oh, Mom, this, and it's back to same old. It's like, whatever, back to working every day, kids having a whinge, and it's like, did I even go? What really happened? And all that build up and all that hard work. You have to allow yourself. You cannot fully enjoy the highs without experiencing the lows. If you don't experience the lows, you won't get anything from the highs. You'll just be on this blank line of nothingness, and nobody wants that. The human experience is highs and lows. You need to understand that you're going to feel a bit low and expect it, put in strategies for it, like I've said, but also give yourself that grace. It's okay. It's okay not to be deliriously happy all the time. It's okay to feel a bit down. I'm not talking about clinical depression or anything like that. I'm talking about the post-run blues. It's okay to feel that. And it's good because it's a release of all that built up tension. You're releasing it all. That's when you focus on doing meditations and those sorts of things, and focus on that deep work. And then you can start building up again, and just know it won't last. This too shall pass. Yeah. But have focus and goals and things to look forward to, and don't just sit there and live there in that post-race. Oh, I've got the post-race blues, so I'm just going to be Mr. Depressing. You know, like I said, I'm not talking clinical depression. If it's actually full-on depression, then go speak to somebody. You know, you don't muck around with this stuff. I'm just talking about post-race blues. Have you ever had post-race blues?
Yes. Yeah. And it pretty much, after I ran my first marathon, I was still fairly new to running that length of race. I was still fairly new. It was my first marathon, so I was still new.
Which marathon was it?
It was Melbourne Marathon. And
what was your time?
It was 4 hours, almost exactly.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And as usual, I went out too hard and had to death march home.
Sounds like fun.
So
fun.
So it wrecked me, and both mentally and physically. Physically on the day, I wasn't injured from it or anything, but it really shook me up, and
Did it hurt?
It hurt. Yeah, absolutely, it hurt. I remember after the race walking up Russell Street, because I'd parked my car up, up that side of the city. And there's a hill in Russell Street, and it felt like a mountain. Like I was,
there was Mount Everest.
I was wondering if I was going to be able to make it up. Yeah. But my point is, after that, like I had no motivation to run. My running went downhill really fast after that. I was lucky to do, 5Ks every 2 or 3 days.
Yeah. See, but then there's also that is like maybe to prepare for, after an ultra or race is don't kill yourself in the race.
Yeah.
Like, pace yourself properly, eat well during it, do all the right things.
I mean, and that was the thing, I had no idea about running. Like all I did was drink water at the aid stations. Didn't eat. I didn't know I had to,
To be fair, on my first marathon, I don't know. I'm sure I would have taken gels, not as many as I eventually learnt to take, but I'm sure I took gels, and I don't remember suffering as much as you did. I went faster than you.
Electrolytes were a thing. Like I think they had electrolytes on the aid stations. I thought it was water and drank it and was like, oh, what the hell is that? And kind of threw it away and grabbed something else. Because like I say, I literally had no idea that people ate or drank anything other than water or gel. Like gels wasn't even a thought process.
Yeah. Well, for me, gels was just because someone at gym suggested it. But I mean, and that's the thing. That's because, and now you think about it, the beauty of the fact that we've got podcasts.
Yeah. That's right.
And all these things, you can get so much information now. So hopefully people aren't making the mistakes we made when there was no information, especially if you didn't know anybody who was a runner. At least I knew runners, I was in the Knox Road, Knox Road runners, and, I went to the gym and those sorts of things. But yes, you've got to mentally prepare for that slump and have strategies in place. And what finally made you get back into running then?
I discovered trail running. And read about Tubo's trail run.
Yeah.
Looked into it a little bit more, volunteered on the aid station, and discovered that it looked like fun.
Yeah.
I saw all those runners out there having a lot more fun than I ever had when I was doing, that
That's
kind of
because
distance.
Trail running is so much more fun than marathoning.
Yeah. So, and that was what kickstarted my running.
Yeah.
Was discovering trail running.
Yeah. And even then also, Glenn, maybe having something different to look forward to, like, you know, do something different, like the stadium stomp, or you know, this one of my clients just sent me a link. I will tell you, it's called Tie Rocks or something. No, High Rocks.
High Rocks.
Close, but no cigar. And this is where it's sort of like you do 8 times 1 kilometer runs with exercises in between, like the sled push, farmer carry, burpee, broad jump, lunges. I mean, that sounds like a bit of fun to do. It's still a bit of running. You do some of those sorts of things after. I used to do, you know, an adventure race with friends, or go and do the color run with my daughter, or
do some roguing, or
do some rogaines,
or
orienteering, get into street orienteering. Different things, and that challenge you in a different way, because, you know, with the rogaine, you don't have, or I mean, I used to really push hard in streeto, but you don't have to. And, you know, the color runs with your kids, you know, do some fun things, or do you know, a bike ride, you know, around the bay in a day, or something like that, you know, do something different, get involved in some different things for that period of time. It's, I mean, you remember we watched Killian, right? That interview. For 6 months of the year, he doesn't run.
Not at all.
He does mountain sports in the snow. So it's not going to kill you not to run for a month.
That's right.
You know,
I guess that's something that we have spoken. I don't know if we've spoken about on a podcast before. Is in Australia, especially in Australia, we don't have an off season.
We don't, because we've got such a temperate climate. Like, it's always runnable.
So we run 20, you know, all 12 months a year we run. Whereas in places like North America, Europe, where it's,
to be fair, even in Canada, I ran all the time, but that was my mindset. It was still in that run all the time mindset.
Whereas a lot of other people would have been doing cross country skiing.
That's right. Doing some other things,
or whatever.
And I really think, you know, 1 month of not running, and even 6 weeks, and focusing on different sports will make you a better, all-rounded, more injury-proof athlete. And you can have like a coach who programs that for you, so therefore you feel like you're doing proper training. You know, they train you for that kind of high rocks thing, or is that what it was again? I can't remember.
So
you know, or trains you for an adventure race. Just do something different. Have some fun. Like, life is meant to be about fun. This sport is fun, but we kind of turn it into a job where if we're not training everything, you know, so change your mentality of it a little bit, perhaps. You know, what do you think about that?
No, I think
I want to do that now. I've got all these races.
Giving yourself some time off running and doing something else.
Super important.
It just refreshes your body, it refreshes your mind. And you never know, you might discover another hobby.
That's right. And if you are injured at the moment and I can't run, I remember one time I couldn't run for, one of the times I couldn't run for like 3 months, and I had to mountain bike. And, you know, I did really well in some mountain bike races and had lots of fun, and, you know, took me back to my mountain biking days, and it was good. It was like, other sports are enjoyable. I know we all love running, but other sports are enjoyable too. And give them a crack. Or if you've got a young family, do some, or, you know, older kids, do some sports with your kids, do some things with them that they enjoy, you know. I mean, be careful, you don't want to injure yourself for running. But you know, there's lots of things you can do, and I think we get so hooked up on the, oh my god, I have to be running. That's a lot of what the post-run blues is as well. Is that, you know, oh, I can't run, but there's so many more things. Try bouldering, try rock climbing. You know, there's so many things.
There is,
and life is so short. We just don't get to do them all if we're running all the time. So use those times as opportunities to try something different. Go in a hot dog eating competition. I've always wanted to do one of them.
I think that's getting back into the
overeating.
Overeating.
I was trying to bring it
highly processed food.
True.
There's nothing more highly processed than a hot dog in a bun.
I've always wanted to do an eating competition because I reckon I'd be pretty dang good at it.
I reckon I could probably do 2 or 3.
No, I reckon I could do a lot more.
Yeah, but you do realise you'd have to eat the crust.
They
They don't let you throw the crust aside.
Oh, but that's wasted stomach space.
I know. That's what hot dog eating competitions are about.
I know. I'd suffer for my art.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, let us know your thoughts. And once again, if you like these people who've given us topics, it really helps. Another topic we were thinking about, so I'll talk about, mind over medicine, that sort of stuff, which I'll include with the brain neural stuff as well, brain plasticity. We'll talk about cortisone and PRP and that sort of stuff. But you suggested talking about running when you've got a young family,
Yes,
which we have both experienced, it's hard, but it's doable.
Yep.
And I was working full-time and you were working full-time, and we both managed to combine running and full-time.
And family duties.
Yeah, and family duties as well. So it is possible. So if you're feeling like totally swamped, take heart. It is possible. Might be a little bit harder if you're a single parent. I completely get that. And, but I won't go into it too much here, but I had a neighbor, we would swap. I'd look after my kids while she went and did her horse riding, and then she'd look after my kids while I went running. So there's always ways of finding things, of ways of organizing yourself. Yeah. So we're going to talk about that. But what I suggested maybe was that people could give us their tips. Please, not typed. Please give us audio. DM me on Facebook, because you can add an audio recording. There's a little picture of a microphone there. Tap it and record yourself talking. Okay. If it goes for over a minute, then I think it stops you. So stick to about a minute. I don't know. Anyway, give it a crack. See what happens. Give us tips of how you have, combined running with a young family. But like I said, don't just type me a message. I'm not going to read out people's messages. I want to have your voices on the podcast. Yep. Okay. So you need to record yourself. Don't just send me a typed message. And you can also record a message for Ron too. That's fine either, although probably me easier, because it's on my laptop and actually to me.
Yep.
Because I can get into it on my laptop and download it straight to the podcasting platform. Yep. So to me, please.
Yes.
And because I can download it off Facebook there. So yes, that's what we wanted to talk about. So we've got a few topics now.
Yep.
Anyway, I hope Mel and Glenn that helped, and I hope that helped other people, because I'm sure other people have thought the same things. Now, speaking of eating, we're going to go off and eat. We've got sweet potato fries tonight.
Sweet potato fries.
Thick mashed potato.
And some
steak
that we bought. And some salad.
Yes. And just as a recommendation, Blood and Gold. Good movie.
Oh, yes.
Movie.
Yes.
German movie.
German movie. It's a German language movie, but it
was encourage you to listen to it in German with the English subtitles.
It was billed as Guy Ritchie-esque.
Yes.
So a bit of blood and guts and gore, and
we love Guy Ritchie movies. They're very graphic and gory, but they're awesome. Yeah. This was a great movie.
It was. Yep.
And the Philly movie that we said we watched, we remembered it's Harold and
Kumar's Christmas movie.
That was so bad.
Once again, laugh out loud funny, but
bad.
Nonsensical.
Absolutely nonsensical. At the moment, we're watching a series, Behind Her Eyes. We've watched 2 episodes of a 6-episode series, and we still
not sure what's happening.
A little bit weird and a little bit cringy at times.
Yes, yeah. There's some poor decisions being made.
Yeah, a lot of poor decisions being made. But
I'm sure there's a point to it. We just haven't got to it yet.
Yeah, not yet. And that's a British one. So there's our recommendations. Always feel free to give us yours, and we'll check them out.
Yeah.
We
love a good comedy. We love a good blood and guts movie.
Yeah, and there's a new Guy Ritchie movie out.
We don't mind.
Yeah, thrillers. Yeah, thrillers, edgy of seat ones, psychological thrillers. I love time travel ones. There's a new Guy Ritchie movie out on Prime, The Covenant. So yay, looking forward to that one. Because just the way he films things, and
the way he ties some stories,
together. But I also love his cinematography and the way he does the filming, and the storylines are always intricate and convoluted.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that's that.
Yep.
Another week,
I think we're done.
Whatever. So yes, join us again next week when we will be talking. Well, we might, see how many people we get with the families thing. If we don't get any, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Right, yeah.
And if we only get 1 or 2, we're going to wait until we've got about 5. It'd be nice to have about 5, just to, put it in, just to give some people's different perspectives.
Yeah.
We know you're right there. It won't be that hard.
That's right. We know what we think about it, but we want to know what you think about it as well.
Yeah. A way of fitting it in, because it is possible. And the recording appears to have improved, so hopefully this has all worked.
Yep.
All righty. Thanks so much for joining us. That mouse isn't going to work. We love that you take the time to listen to us waffle on all about running and how awesome it is. And we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.